Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. This is just a continuation video from the procedure and results that I was covering in Perry et al. I was unable to cover it in one video, so I am making this one. I hope you have watched the previous video. If you haven't, I'm linking it in the description box below. Do watch it because you won't be able to understand this part until you've understood the first part of the procedure. In this video, I'll complete off the discussion of the procedure, results and conclusion, and then we'll do some practice questions. Okay, so I had explained experiment 1 in the previous video. Today I'll explain the procedure of experiment 2. A brief overview we have already seen of what is done in this experiment. In this video, we are going to look at step by step what was done more closely. So this is the choosing room experiment, which some participants did in the first week and some had to do after 1 week. Firstly, participants for this experiment, they were told that they will have to meet another person once the experiment gets over. This is not something they're told to imagine. They actually believe that this is going to happen. So they believe really they have to meet another participant after this experiment gets over. And what they'll have to do is with that other participant, they'll have to discuss personal topics. These were not defined what these personal topics will be, but they were told that they will have to discuss some of those. So they were told that for this meeting, which is going to happen after the experiment, the room layout will be as per their preference. How they select, in that way only the room will be laid out. This is deception. We should know right at the outset. So this is an ethical concern. It has the potential for causing harm, as we will see in the evaluation. Participants who are anxious in nature or who are not comfortable meeting strangers might have been emotionally distressed since they heard that they would have to meet someone else. And throughout, as they did this experiment, they kept on believing that a meeting will really be there. So, for as long as this experiment, they might have been distressed in their mind. Anyways, we'll come to it later in the evaluation. Further, what we see is in this task, exactly what they had to do was like once they're given this instruction, then they have to sit in front of the computer, and now they could see pairs of still images, still photographs were there in front of them, one on the left side of the computer screen, one on the right side. There they were shown positions of chairs, table and a plant, which varied slightly either in angle or distance. I had explained this last time also very quickly, and I had recommended you see the photograph in the original paper or in the textbooks. It is there in all the books. If this is the computer screen in front of the participant, it is divided into left and right. There is a photograph on the left and one on the right. In both the photographs, the participants can see there are chairs that are facing each other, and they believe that this is where they will have to sit. Like after this experiment gets over, they will be sitting on one of these chairs, and that other participant with whom they have to discuss the personal topics, that other participant will be sitting on the other chair. So they get to see two chairs at the center, and they get to see a table and a plant. Now what the researchers, similar photo is there on the right also, same way, two chairs, one table, one plant. Now what the researchers do is, they just manipulate either one of three things for these two photographs, either the distance of the chairs. So if I'm seeing the photographs, everything else could be the same in both the photographs except the distance between the chairs. So say on the left photograph, the chairs are very close to each other, like they're positioned very close, but on the right photograph, they are very distant from each other. Or on some trials, what would happen? The chairs are on the same distance in the left and right photograph, but the angle of the chairs is varying. So say on the left photograph, they're exactly facing each other, but on the right photograph, they're slightly tilted, so little looking away from each other. And on some trials, the chair angle and distance would be the same in the left and the right photograph, but the distance between the table and the plant would vary. So say on the left photograph, the table and plant are placed far away from each other. But on the right photograph, they are placed very close to each other. So either one of these things would vary from trial to trial. That is the distance between the chairs, the angle of the chairs, or the distance between the table and plant. Rest everything would be kept constant in both the photographs. So now participants had to sit in front of the computer screen. They had to see 168 trials, which means that 168 times they had to keep on performing this task. Here their task is simple. Once they see the photograph, so they are seeing a photograph on the left and the right, they simply have to click on that photograph which is their preference. So if they feel that the right photograph, they would like the layout that way, when they have the meeting with the other participant, they can click on the right one. If they feel the left photograph is the type of layout they would like to have later, they can press the left one. Actually, there are 84 room pairs which are there. Actually, there are 84 trials, but each trial is shown twice. That is how it comes to 168 trials. And I need not tell you, all these computerized experiments are always randomized. So, randomly on any trial, the distance between chairs could be different or the angles could be different. It's not like, say, for 10 trials, the distance between chairs is there, then for 10 trials, the angle between chairs, not like that. It's all interspersed. It's very important to memorize from a paper point of view how many trials are there, uh, why there are those many trials, in the sense because 84 pairs are there which are repeated. That all you have to remember very perfectly. Any of these questions can come for specific numbers. Participants, as I mentioned in the last experiment also, to keep things standardized, they are asked to sit at a particular distance from the computer screen. So in this experiment, they had to sit at 60 centimeter distance from the screen. Again, very important to memorize all such figures. They can be asked in the paper. Also, very good points for standardization. Supposing they ask you, give one reason why the procedure of experiment 2, or in general, if they ask you, Perry et al. Was standardized. These are excellent examples to give. So one example of standardization is sitting 60 centimeters away. Another example is that those pairs of photographs which would come on the screen, each pair would come for exactly 2 seconds. It's computerized, so it's highly controlled. Like the computer would, it can never make a mistake. If something is programmed to be shown for 2 seconds, it'll be exactly 2 seconds. The fixation point that used to come between each trial was for 5 seconds, 0.5 seconds. I'm sorry, so 0.5, half a second. In this study also, similar to that CID paradigm study, like supposing this is the first trial, participants are seeing these photographs on the screen. Then once they have, supposing, indicated their preference, so supposing I have selected the left photograph, then that screen goes away. There's a fixation point in between. I have to look at this fixation point for half a second. This, like I've explained in the previous, it's a control. It helps to reorient the participants. Like I've just seen one pair of photographs that is still lingering in my mind. A little bit, it's still there in my vision. So this fixation point helps to just erase that, and then I am free to look at the next photograph. Like my attention is now focused on the next one. Then after 0.5 seconds, this fixation cross goes away, and then again there are two photographs in front of me, left and right. So in between any two trials, always that 0.5 seconds fixation crosses them. Then coming to the experimental conditions, we've already seen two IVs which were manipulated for both the experiments. One was administration of oxytocin, and other was empathy, which was not manipulated but it was measured by the researchers. In this experiment, there's one more IV, as you can see. What is being compared in the left and the right photograph? So is it the distance of the chairs? Is it the angle of the chairs? And then there's also this control condition in which distance of the table and plant are serving as the control. So this becomes one more IV in this experiment. Exactly what is the manipulation in both the photographs which have to be compared, or what is the comparison that has to be drawn between them? So is it distance between chairs, angle between chairs, or is it the distance between table and plant? This is one IV that is exclusive to this experiment. It is not found in experiment 1. Now, I had mentioned previously also, but just like to remind you, why is there this condition between distance of table and plant? Because participants are not going to sit on the table and the plant. This is included for control aesthetic preference. Some participants generally they would like to have more space between things. That is why they might indicate they want more space between chairs, not because of personal distance preference as such, but because of beauty preference or aesthetic preference. So, just to check whether participant is keeping a certain distance between chairs because they feel it's interfering with their personal space and not because of aesthetic preference. We are going to compare and see how much distance they like to keep between the table and the plant. If always for table and plant also they indicate huge distances, that means that overall they like to keep distance between things. More we get to see in evaluation. As I've already mentioned, in each trial only one variable used to differ out of these three, and participants simply had to click the left or the right. Like previously I had mentioned in CID paradigm, you should know exactly, they can even ask you which key was pressed, so space bar was pressed in that experiment. Here it's a mouse click that they have to do. Just they have to click the point on the left or the right photograph. Okay. Now let's look at the results of this study. So finally we are done with the procedure. To quickly summarize it, each participant undergoes two experiments they have to perform. One is under oxytocin administration and one is under placebo administration. It's randomized. Which participant does which first and under which condition, that is randomized. Participants are also noted for having high or low empathy. Now, participants in experiment 1 perform a CID paradigm animation task in which they imagine themselves on the computer and see a figure approaching towards them. They have to stop that figure at their preferred distance. In experiment 2, they see this distance between table and chair and between the chairs, and they have to indicate what is their preference for room layout for a meeting that they are going to have later with another participant to discuss personal topics. So this is in very brief what this experiment is about. Now let's look at the results. Since there are two experiments, we have to see individually what are the results of each experiment. Of course, the researcher wants to see overall what is the influence of oxytocin and empathy on placebo. So if we have similar findings in both the experiments, that's like a double check. Like what experiment 2 is kind of replicating experiment 1, though with a different task. But if both indicate the same thing, like oxytocin is influencing in the same way, that just goes to show that what they had expected is being confirmed twice. So it gives a lot of validation to their results. Okay, let's see what are the results for experiment 1. For this study, like I've said, things appear complex. Actually, they are not. They are quite simple, but it is that when you write, you have to be very careful about things. Like the first result, if we look at it specifically, it is mentioned for the high empathy group. Many students do not mention this. Like when they are giving this result, they'll just say oxytocin reduced preferred mean distance from the protagonist. They don't specify for which group, high empathy or low empathy. It's a very vital detail that you cannot skip. Because if I don't write high empathy and I just write the rest of the sentence, it appears as if oxytocin is having the same effect on all participants, regardless of empathy, because I'm not talking about the empathy of people. So that is not how you can write. The result should be very clear and very specific. So you have to write this way only, as it is given here. For those who have high empathy, when they were under the influence of oxytocin for the CID paradigm, their mean preferred distance was 23.29%. Means on an average, they would stop that moving figure at a 23.29% distance from themselves. By itself, this result has no meaning. When we compare it with placebo, then it has meaning. So for the same people, high empathy people, but who had taken placebo instead of oxytocin, they preferred a 26.11% distance between themselves and the approaching figure, which tells you that Definitely oxytocin reduces how much distance people want from others as long as they are high on empathy. Simply because you can see the figure is much smaller. The percentage distance desired is smaller, 23 point something, compared to placebo, where it is 26. If it was only a matter of empathy and not oxytocin, then why are the percentages different? In the same way, if it was just a matter of oxytocin and not empathy, then why are the percentages different? So, definitely, there is an interplay between oxytocin and empathy. When both are combined, that is when people like to have less distance from others on an average. Definitely, I know it must be coming to your mind, but the figure could be a stranger or a friend, and that can matter. It does matter. But as of now, we are seeing overall or on an average, these are the results. Now, uh, from the paper point of view, I know most students ask this: do I have to remember up to the like ultimate decimal point? Like, do I have to remember the result that specifically? Try your very best to remember it that specifically. If you cannot after trying, not that you don't try from the beginning, then you learn approximate figures. And in the paper you mention approximate, then you don't write as if it is definitive. So in the paper also, when you write for placebo, you can write approximately 26% was the preferred distance, and for oxytocin you can say approximately 23%. Okay, so this is the first result, definitely needs to be memorized. Like, I need not tell you this. And how it has to be memorized. High empathy has to be specified when you're writing oxytocin, the exact percentage or at least the approximate, placebo, and uh, exact percentage or approximate. Now, when I say approximate, some students, what they do is, please don't do these type of things. That's why I'm warning you. For approximate, I will give a very roundish figure. I've not told you you can round to any extent the figure. I'm just saying you can give an approximate. So what is before the decimal, you need to retain that in your memory. If you're going to tell me approximately 25% and approximately 30% or something like this, these are not approximations. They are very far off rounding, which will not be considered correct at all. So you can't remember very large or very small figures in the name of remembering approximations. Approximation just means let go of the decimals and remember what comes before the decimal. That's all. Now, similarly, you have to remember the result for the low empathy group also. For the CID paradigm experiment, also, before I forget this, if they are asking you, which they usually do, give results for experiment 1, that's CID paradigm, or give results for experiment 2, which is choosing rooms. If they are telling you specifically that's what you want, you don't need to say for which experiment you're talking. But sometimes there's a question, give any one result from Perry et al. Study. I'll deal more with the questions later, but yeah, I'm just talking about something very particular. Then you mention for which experiment you're giving the result. Are you giving for CID paradigm or choosing rooms? When you're writing, this is a general principle. When you're writing in the paper, you don't leave anything to imagination or estimation. Let the examiner think what I'm talking about. No, the examiner is not supposed to think. You are supposed to be very explicit about what you're writing. So you need to write, supposing this is the result you're giving for CID paradigm in high empathy group who took oxytocin, this was the percentage. Everything you have to be explicit about. Now let's see the result for the low empathy group. Those who took oxytocin and had low empathy for experiment 1, their mean preferred distance was 30.20%. Approximation of this is 30%. Those who took placebo and they had low empathy, their mean preferred distance was 26%. Approximation for this is 27%. So now for your interpretation, sometimes they'll even ask you to interpret results, especially on paper 2. What is the difference between stating the result and interpreting? Interpretation is always a conclusion, the larger theoretical generalization that you are able to make from specific numbers. Now, if you compare low empathy versus high empathy, under placebo, you will see the mean preferred distance is almost the same. But once we bring in oxytocin into the picture, that has a huge impact. Like people who are high on empathy, once they have oxytocin being released in their body, the distance they want from others really reduces. But those who are low on empathy, because anyways they like to be far away from others, like we've seen in the introduction, once they take oxytocin, they want quite a good distance from others, like 30.2. The distance they want under placebo, that is their regular preferred distance. Like just because they're low on empathy, they want about 27% distance from others. But once they take oxytocin, it increases. From 27, it becomes 30. So we had seen oxytocin has a differential impact depending on a person is high on empathy or low on empathy. And now that becomes very evident from these results. If a person is low on empathy, anyways, if we look at them, they want about something like 27% distance. But under oxytocin, that increases. But if they're high on empathy, anyways, they would want about 26% distance from others, but under influence of oxytocin, that really reduces. Sometimes differences seem small, like you'll feel what's the big difference between, say, 26 and 23? It's just a 3% distance. So, this is something which I'm telling you outside of the textbook. If you're interested in psychology, you should know about this. Human behavior is very complex and multi determined. How much distance I want from others depends on too many factors, like we've been seeing from before. My gender, my cultural background, my personal preferences. Empathy, oxytocin are just one or two factors which are contributing to how much distance I want from others. So, given that it's just one of the factors that influences behavior, oxytocin, if it has an impact like 3%, now consider what a huge impact it is. So that 3% might seem like a small figure, but it's coming from only one contributing factor. So it's a very important factor. That is what is suggested. Otherwise, what happens is sometimes students feel, what is the point of these studies? Like, why are we learning all this when the results are not even significant enough? These are very significant results. These are very important studies telling you very important things about human behaviors. That's why they're being. Now, coming to something very important, like I mentioned before, also even you must be wondering, what about the type of figure which was approaching? What about the type of protagonist? Of course, they would have not had the same preferred distance from a friend, stranger, everybody. So yes, that is. So when it comes to the high empathy group, as we would expect, when they had taken placebo, they definitely had different preferred distances from different figures who were there. Like, for example, between the friend and authority figure and between friend and stranger, differences were there. Which, of course, means that they wanted to be closer to a friend than a stranger or authority figure. This is under placebo, means this is their normal preference. Oxytocin has not been introduced. So people who are high on empathy in general, they like to be closer to their friends than to their strangers or authority figures, which we can understand commonsensically. Anyone will want that. As far as the ball is concerned, because it's not a social figure, it's just kept for control. It's just kept to see, like, as a baseline of how much distance someone would want from a figure. Again, these are things we consider in evaluation. So there's no difference between ball and the human figures, which are there, be it stranger, friend, authority. So that did not matter. But once oxytocin was administered, then we get to see some prominent results. In the high empathy group, again, we have to be specific when we are talking about this. When oxytocin was given, people were willing to be closer to the ball compared to the stranger or authority figure. This is just another way of saying that once people take oxytocin, then, anyways, we've seen they like a distance from strangers and authority figures, that enhances. Once they take oxytocin, they want even more distance from strangers and authority figures, than they normally do. So this is about what we need to remember for experiment 1. Of course, results are much more detailed, but whatever they give in the book, those are like the significant results. Some results are not significant, means they're found to be quite negligible, like not applicable to the population. Those are the ones they don't give. So we just need to remember this much. From a paper point of view, the specific percentages more than what we saw about the protagonists are likely to be asked in the paper. Of course, that doesn't mean you skip anything. I'm just telling you what is more likely. Now let's see the results for experiment 2. This is the choosing rooms experiment. For CID paradigm, we had seen it was measured in terms of percentage, how much distance was left between the central figure and the protagonist. For this choosing rooms experiment, we see that what has been measured is the centimeter distance that is kept between the chairs on which participants presumably have to sit with another participant. So that distance is given to us in the results in centimeters. What is found is high empathy participants, they preferred closer chair distances provided they taken oxytocin. So high empathy plus oxytocin means people wanted to sit closer to the other participant. In terms of specific figure, it is 78.07 centimeter. This can be remembered as an approximation of 78 centimeter. Now when it comes to placebo, this was 80.58 centimeter. So you can see definitely oxytocin has a favorable impact, like people want to be closer to another person in discussion. Whereas when they take placebo, there's no oxytocin, they want more distance, approximately 81 centimeter. That is the distance which they want. So how you have to remember it? High empathy, oxytocin about 78 centimeter, and high empathy placebo about 81 centimeter in experiment 2. That is the preferred distance between the chairs. Also mention chair distances because there are many things being manipulated like we've seen. Out of them you're talking about chair distances, you need to specify that. Now coming to what if the participant was low on empathy, then there's a differential impact. When a person is low on empathy and they're given oxytocin, then the distance they like between the chairs is 80 centimeter. Whereas if they have not taken oxytocin, they like a 78 centimeter distance approximate. So what it shows is compared to normally what a person would like distance between the chairs, under oxytocin that is increased if the person is low on empathy. All these results which we have seen for the first experiment and now we are seeing for the second experiment are all in the predicted direction, exactly what researchers were expecting. In the beginning only they've told us what impact oxytocin will have on high empathy. More closeness to people like who are in the intimate and personal zones, and more distance from people who are in their social and public zones. So that is exactly what we are finding. And similarly, they've told us when low empathy people take oxytocin, it's going to be like they overall want more distance, regardless of who's there in front of them. Again, that is what is being seen. Now coming to one more thing they had measured which was not a control was the angle. So leaving the table and plant thing, nothing is a control. They thought that oxytocin might influence chair angle also, but that was not the case. So it seems oxytocin has more of an impact for physically or in literal personal space, how close or far away we are from someone, not so much for symbolically how close or far we feel from someone. Like if I'm sitting facing squarely someone, like right in front of them on the chair, versus I'm just tilted a little and I'm looking a little towards the wall and say they're also looking there. That's a symbolic distance. Actually, we are still sitting close, but because we can look away from each other, we feel more distant. So it seems oxytocin does not play a role in that. It plays a role only in actual distance between people. Okay, so just to summarize the results now, and as I've said, the percentages and centimeters are the most important ones. To summarize the results for experiment 1 CID paradigm, we are finding that that combination of high empathy plus oxytocin definitely results in on an average less preferred distance from others, whereas that combination of low empathy and oxytocin increases the average distance that a person wants from others. Also when it comes to effect of protagonists, which type of protagonist it is? Definitely. When oxytocin is taken, people who are high on empathy like greater distances from strangers and authority figures and even closer distances to their friends. But as far as the ball is concerned, there's no impact of that because it is a control condition. So, as expected, oxytocin does not impact distances in general or from non living things. It impacts distances only from social figures. It's a social hormone. Then coming to choosing rooms experiment, when a person is high on empathy and oxytocin, that combination results in desire for closeness while discussing something with another participant. Whereas when oxytocin is then the person is low on empathy, there's a desire for greater distance during the discussion. There's no impact on symbolic distance or angles, only on real distance, actual distance between chairs. Now let's see the conclusion. So, overall, what we learn from this study is oxytocin does influence interpersonal distance mediated by or depending on the empathy level of people. People high on empathy like closer distances, low empathy, they like greater distances. Also, the researchers have said that oxytocin promotes closeness in highly empathetic individuals, especially when it comes to non threatening interactions. Non-threatening meaning when a friend is approaching, that's a non-threatening situation. So that is when people like to be closer, like we saw in CID paradigm. But when it comes to threatening, like why is a stranger coming close to me, or why is authority figure coming out of the public place and coming into my personal or intimate space, then we saw there's desire for more distance. Also, like they mentioned, that ball was kept as the parameter or the baseline. So compared to that interaction with the ball, the distance desired from stranger or authority figure was even more. So if people were indifferent towards strangers or authority figures just like they're towards the ball, then that greater distance would not have been indicated from the stranger or authority figure. The fact that they're willing to be closer to the ball than the stranger or the authority figure shows that oxytocin makes us more aversive towards people who shouldn't come into our close zones coming over there. So that's the explanation of the study. More important is, as always, answer writing. Explanation, of course, whether we're writing good answers or not totally depends on have we understood the study, but answer writing skill is also at a different level. It's not the same as just understanding. The content does not help you to write good answers. Understanding content plus knowing how to read the questions and how to phrase the answers, that helps you to get good marks. Let's see what types of questions can come in the paper. One question they can ask you, outline what the participant was asked to do in experiment 1. Now, ideally, this question comes in the paper for like 4 or 5 marks, because when they are asking you what the participant had to do in an experiment, what they mean is they want the procedure. And the procedure we saw is like definitely, in fact, even more than 4 or 5 points. Here they've asked for 2 marks. In case they ask for 2 marks instead of four, then how we should phrase it, I'll explain that to you in response to this. I'm giving you a sample answer. As I always say, this is not the only answer you can write. This is an example. See, when they're asking you the procedure, but they're really reducing the marks. Like instead of four, they're asking you for 2 marks. Then you should focus on what are the most important points in the procedure. Like you should give those instead of giving any random points. Though you're allowed, like the mark scheme, how it will be typically, all the possible points which are there in the procedure, they'll list those and they'll say, okay, any two of these the student can give. Still, I would suggest try, like as good practice, try to include the two most important points. As far as the first experiment is concerned, what the participant had to do, focus on that also. What the participant had to do, not so much what is shown to the participant. That, like some students will start describing which were the protagonists and what was the distance from which they had to sit at the screen and how long the fixation. That is not what the participant has to do. If you say the participant had to look at the fixation cross for half a second, yes, that's right. If you say the fixation cross was displayed for half a second, you're not saying what the participant had to do. So think of what the participant is doing. That's why very important to know how to read the question also, and to actually read it carefully. So read the question carefully. They ask you what the participant had to do right from the participant's point of view. So I would suggest, rather than focusing on the stimuli and what was presented on the screen, talk about the participant's job in this. So most importantly, the participant had to look at the approaching figure, concentrate on it, and press the spacebar at the point that they wanted to stop the approaching figure. Like, this is the key thing. This, in my opinion, should definitely come in the answer. Besides that, like, this itself will be worth 2 marks, but if you just want to be safe and you want to include one more sentence for 2 marks, you can mention something about the fixation cross, or you can talk about how many trials the participant had to do in total of the same nature. Or you could even talk about how the participant had to imagine themselves as the central figure and the protagonist as another figure. So anything from the participant's POV you can give in this answer. How I would phrase it is, participants had to imagine themselves as the central figure and the approaching figure as one of four protagonists as instructed. Now this is, I'm not going to get into the details of which are the four protagonists because it's for 2 marks. We should not lose sight of that. So how much can I elaborate for 2 marks? So then I'll just move to the next important thing. They then had to press the space bar at the point at which they wanted to stop the approaching protagonist Okay, I can just send it there. Stop the approaching protagonist. So I have written from participants' perspective that they had to imagine, they had to press the space bar. So make sure you write it that way, no matter which points you're writing. Okay, I'm not going to be uploading these answers. You can take a screenshot if you want, but more important than that is to write yourself. Okay, so like I always say, this is not a movie that's going on and you're watching for entertainment. You're watching this video to learn. So be active, have your pen in your hand, write down with me, write down, even if it just means copying the answer for now because you're really not getting how to structure the answer, that's fine. But be active, don't be passive when you're watching a lesson. Okay, and if you need for future reference the answers, you can take a screenshot because I will not be uploading this on my website. Next is explain how empathy was measured in this study. Interpersonal reactivity index, as we've seen, that will count as 1 mark, like just stating that that is how it was done. And then a supplementary point for the second mark, which can be any detail, the cutoff for consideration of high or low empathy, or the total number of items, the rating scale, examples of the items which are there, anything. I would suggest, my suggestion, like I know in the mark scheme again they're just going to give a list of possible points and say, any two is fine, but they will take the definition as the main point. So definitely definition or identifying the scale is very important in my opinion. The cutoff is the next most important thing, because how did they identify who's high or low on empathy? That is the key thing more than anything else. What participants had to answer and all is not that important in their identification. Okay, so how I would put this answer is, the interpersonal reactivity index A psychometric test measuring empathy. Was administered to all participants. Those who scored 40 and above were taken to be high on empathy. Those who scored 33 and below were taken to be low on empathy. Now, one thing is course studies. These are in this year, course study means only you have to memorize every detail. So you cannot say in general some were recognized as high on empathy, some were recognized in low. You cannot use vague language. You can say I've given exact cutoffs. That is very important. So interpersonal reactivity index, to mention the full name, which score is high empathy, which score is low. Be very definitive on that. Don't write loose answers. Okay, coming to the next question. Explain how one finding from the study supports one of the assumptions of the social approach. For these assumptions type of questions, it is very important to state the assumption clearly first, which is why I always recommend memorizing the assumption. You can write in your own words, but typically students don't do a good job in writing in their own words. They miss out many key details. So just memorize. There are 8 assumptions across 4 approaches. Memorize them first, state the assumption, and then when they're asking you how one finding meets it, make sure to give a finding. Let's come back to the question before I write anything. They're asking you finding. Okay, so you don't write something generic, like supposing the assumption you're taking is people are influenced by real, imagined, and implied presence of others. Then you don't say because how much distance people want from others, that depends on whether the approaching person is a friend or a stranger. Where is the finding in that? Where is the result? Then you're just talking about one part of the design or procedure of the study. Very specifically, they're telling you finding. That means you have to state an assumption first, give a result, a specific result, what was found, and then connect that result with the assumption which you have written. Very important to read the question carefully. Every word in the question matters. If you're reading in a haste and you miss this one word finding and you give a general point from the study, your answer will go wrong. One assumption of the social approach is that cognitions, emotions, and behaviors of people are influenced by the real, imagined, or implied presence of others. One finding of the study was that in experiment 1, high empathy individuals preferred gated distance from the imagined presence of a stranger or authority figure, then from a ball. A few things I want you to note about how I've written the answer. First, I've clearly stated the assumption as it is without modifying anything because that results in omission of lot of important things. Secondly, I have given the finding and it is a finding. This is what high empathy people liked. I'm not talking about hypotheticals or I'm not talking about anything in the procedure. I'm talking about this is exactly what was found. And to link it to the assumption I have mentioned, because the assumption is talking about something of an imagined presence. So here even I have mentioned imagined presence of the authority figure. That word, it's just 2 marks. I can't really give one full sentence to link it to the assumption. But through that one word, I'm linking it with what was given before. That because the assumption is saying imagined presence influences people, so here that preferred distance is getting influenced by imagined presence of these figures. Okay, let's look at the next question. Other, if you want tips on how to write 2 markers, 4 markers, today I'm not discussing those many tips because a lot of times in previous videos I have discussed these things. So similar points apply here also, like how to break down into points, rules of thumb, how many sentences should be there. All that I've already discussed many times in previous videos. I'm sure most of you have watched those videos. If you haven't, you can go and watch them. So those tips which I usually give apply here also. Here I'm just trying to be specific to these questions. In fact, if you watch part 1 of this video, aims and background and psychology, in that also I have given those general tips. Okay, then next I've asked how the dependent variable was operationalized in experiment 1. Most students do very poorly on operationalization questions because they just read the word dependent variable and they jump to writing the dependent variable. They'll say it is interpersonal distance. Very clearly, they have used the word operationalized. It has to be very specific. Operationalization means how something was measured in practice. For all practical purposes, it means that you have to give the statistic with which it was measured, or you can think of the quantification that was done exactly. In this case, the statistic was a percentage. They did not calculate, say, a mean or a median. Rather than that, they've calculated percentage of preferred distance. That word percentage is very vital. Secondly, instead of just saying personal distance or preferred distance, operationalization means being very specific. So, percentage distance from what? We have to specify that also. Another way of thinking of operationalization is be as specific as possible. So, the operationalized dependent variable, like I'm writing a full sentence, you can give a direct answer also. Was percentage of preferred distance from an approaching figure ball, friend, stranger, or authority figure. So this is what is measured per participant. What is the percentage which they want to keep? Of course, because they've done many trials, it is averaged across the trials. So mean percentage as such has been taken. If you just say mean, like I mentioned before, mean distance, that's wrong. Mean is not the thing. Mean percentage distance is what has been calculated. So we can say across trials, mean preferred distance from these protagonists was calculated. Do not get into comparisons that there were comparisons across high empathy, low empathy. They are not asking you for this quantitative data, why it was useful. Those things they are not asking you. They are simply asking you how the dependent variable was operationalized. There are other ways also of writing this thing. You could have fitted in one sentence also. I know. Doesn't matter. You will get 2 marks. They don't count the sentences as long as the point you're putting across, like I've put it, even if you're putting in one sentence, you'll get 2 marks for it. The next question is describe two independent variables used in this study. Here they haven't said specifically like manipulated or anything, we can give any two. Also, they haven't said anything like it has to be common to both the experiments, so it has to be exclusive to experiment 1 only or experiment 2 only. So we are free to give literally any of the independent variables we have learned. Two we have learned in general, and two we have learned specific to each experiment. So one for each. So there are four in total, any two you can give. I will give the general ones, but keep in mind this is for 4 marks. You always have to take a look at the marks, which means you have to give the IVs with their levels. If you don't give the levels, you're losing out on marks. Whenever you give levels of the IV, try to operationalize. That is, try to be very specific. So you can see how I have done it. Okay, I would say one independent variable was administration of oxytocin manipulated at two levels. One, administration of 3 drops of oxytocin per nostril. 2, administration of 3 drops of saline solution per nostril. You can also add other details like self-administration, but don't get into the details of how many units were there in the bottle. That's not directly relevant to the level of the IV or how the manipulation is being done. That's more of standardization. Another IV was empathy level of participants measured at two levels. Level 1, high empathy. As indicated by 40 or more score on the IRI. And level 2, low empathy. Indicated by score of 33 or less on the IRI. So this is about the independent variables. Now let's look at the next question, the last question from here. Identify 3 ways in which procedure for experiment 2 was standardized in the study. Standardization questions just give very specific details, like give exact numbers. Don't give things like, it goes on lower levels if you give things like distance was from the computer, like seating from the computer was standardized, but say you don't mention that it was 60 centimeters, your scores will reduce, especially if you're doing this on a 10 marker. You know how 10 marker marking is done. The evaluation question, there are 5 levels, level 1 to 5. So if you want to achieve that level 5, which is the 9 to 10 mark band, you have to be very explicit. Okay, so let's look at question 6. 3 ways of administration they have asked. So we can say first way was maintenance of a distance of exactly 60 centimeter between the participant and the computer screen. Second way was showing each participant a total of 84 pairs of photographs twice each. Third way was showing a fixation cross for precisely 0.5 seconds between any two trends. Anyways, you have to memorize these details for your 1-2 markers, because they can ask you any specific number. So anyways, you're remembering these numbers. So why not include it in a standardization question also? And like I said, really helps you to score well. So these are the answers which I have written for the practice questions. With this, I complete the procedure, results, and conclusion of Perry et al. Across 2 videos, I have completed this section. My next video on Perry et al., which will be the next video I will upload, it will be on the evaluation section. Very important, because I will cover the 10 marker also in that, which is like highly scoring, the most scoring question on paper 1. So I'll explain all the evaluation points to you, methodological and ethical, and I will also show you how to write answers. In the meanwhile, there are already many videos on my channel. I know you all are giving mock exams right now. So there are already a lot of videos on my channel on how to cover various types of answers. Keep watching those. If you have any suggestions, any feedback, any questions about this video, leave them in the comments box below. I answer all relevant questions. If you want tuition for psychology, you want personal help, for that I'm leaving my contact number and my email ID in the description box and pinned comment below. So that is all I have for you for today. Thank you for watching this video. Bye bye.